Yep, I didn't want to make this video, but I feel like my hand's kind of been forced as I did put a video out last week kind of talking about how censorship, from the Musk Trump interview kind of happened, at least on YouTube, at least on my channel, just because I live streamed it. I didn't even really do anything to it, but, you should be able to hear the presidential candidates and all the things that they have to say, whether it's good or bad or stupid or smart, whatever. But the one thing that I want to make this video about is something that everybody should kind of really appreciate about a democratic society, especially in America, and that is the actual democratic process. It doesn't matter where you stand on a lot of different political issues and whatever, your stance is. But the disturbing thing is we've seen a party now two times over the past 10 years, 8 years, really going back to 2016, kind of have, a way to kind of control their party. And that's not healthy, right? It's kind of circumventing the democratic process. And I'm not even going to talk about like actual election results, but really, if you remember back in 2016, if you don't know, I know shoot, you might have been 10 years old back then, and now you are voting age. So, one of the things that happened back in 2016 was a lot of people thought Bernie Sanders was going to win the DNC, Democratic National Convention, but be the sponsor for the Democrats in the presidential election. And I thought that would have been a pretty good and interesting debate if that was to go down between him and Trump. I thought it would have been really interesting because Bernie, like Trump, had a very hardcore base. Very hardcore base. But it wound up coming out later on that the head of the DNC and Hillary had kind of conspired against Bernie and had him not ousted, but kind of got the votes behind the scenes and that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of information that kind of goes into this. I'm not going to go into all of this, but basically just talking about how Hillary Clinton kind of robbed Bernie Sanders of the Democratic nomination, right? So there was a lot of that kind of stuff. This was so bad that the head of the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, resigned DNC chair because of this scandal and the behind the scenes manipulation of the democratic process. This was a big deal because there were so many people kind of calling for a retaliation or changes because Bernie Sanders had a very strong base. He had a very strong base in the Democratic Party. So now if you fast forward to 2024, one of the things that we've seen is, well, there is now a new Democratic candidate by the name of Kamala Harris. And what's really interesting is she's actually never gotten a delegate. She's never been voted for by anybody in the Democratic Party in an actual debate style. Like, she's never had a debate, and she's never won enough of a debate and the minds of people to get delegates. And what's kind of interesting, she actually did try to run for president back in 2020, but she was so bad that she wound up dropping out so early that nobody was able to vote for her because she dropped out before the Democratic nomination voting was kind of going on. So she never got delegates. These were the 5 people that got delegates back in 2020. Obviously, Joe Biden got the nomination. You had Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Michael Bloomberg, and Pete Buttigieg. I'm sorry if I butcher that name. And then you fast forward to 2024, right? 2024, and well, we've had there was a few that actually also threw their hat in the ring. There was Joe Biden, who is our current president, and he had basically all the delegates, with a few others getting a couple, right? Dean Phillips and Jason Palmer. If you've never heard of these guys, I don't blame you. Never heard of them either. Obviously, I don't know why you'd be throwing your hat in the ring when you have a president that's going to be running for re-election. But I guess you gotta have somebody, right? But one of the things that you notice here is, well, there's no Harris. There's no Harris. But yet, on the Wikipedia page, down below, Harris does wind up having all the delegates. All the delegates. It's kind of interesting how that has happened. And there's nobody even to contest her. And so the handpicking and conspiring that is going on in the Democratic Party has got to be something that's very worrisome, because if they circumvent the election process, even, trying to say, hey, you know what, Biden's going to run, but oh, you know what, we're now going to put this other person in position to run for president in the Democratic Party, not the person you all voted for. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to put this person, kind of like how they did in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, and now 2024 with Kamala Harris. This is a hugely disturbing fact, and something that I really hope people really kind of pay attention to. That is the only thing to me in this election cycle that really freaking matters. All the other topics and policies and stuff, people are gonna just, they're gonna lean however they want to lean. All that stuff doesn't matter. It's the conspiring to undermine the basic fundamental of democracy in a democracy. And that's not even going into all of the, whatever you believe about election interference that was going on in 2020. But if they are able to pull this off and actually become, get somebody who didn't fully go through the democratic process to the president, the highest level of elected officials in this country, there is no telling what they will try to get away with in the future. There is no telling what they will be able to try to get away with over the next 4 years. That is really scary. And if you think that, oh yeah, that's my party, they got my back, that is not entirely true. Because they don't care about you. Only you care about you. But as far as making fun of politicians on the channel, I'll still do that because it's fun. Whether it's the Orange Man or the Rocks for Brains. And that's giving Rocks a really, that's putting Rocks in a really low level. Rocks are better than that. And I don't really care to talk about politics, policy, but shit posting on politicians and making fun of them, I actually don't mind that at all. But even myself, with some of our recent developments, even I've kind of thought about getting into politics. And we'll see if that happens. I don't really want to, but man, I don't like the way a lot of things are kind of run in our country. And I think a lot of things can be done better. Whatever you kind of think. Enjoy this election season. It's usually fun, entertaining, and a lot of shit posting. Take care.